This is Greg Vincent at Commodity Classic in Anaheim, California. I'm talking to Rob Joslin, the president of the American Soybean Association. Rob, you're a farmer from Sidney, Ohio. You are looking at some of the goals and objectives you want to reach this year as your president of ASA. What are you looking at from a regulatory and legislative standpoint for the group?
Well, I think the regulation right now, we're working very closely with the EPA and concerned about the regulations they're putting forth under the Clean Water Act. They just had the second court ruling that would give them increased ability to regulate the plant protection products that our soybean farmers rely on and need. Very concerned that if the rules aren't implemented in a practical manner, it would require pre-approval from some government entity, and that's just not going to work. If we have a bug or a weed or a fungus in our soybean crop, we all know that we need to spray those immediately, and timeliness is everything. And I think the EPA, the people I've talked to, understand that, and I think we're going to have some regulations that will be workable in the short term.
Okay, on the legislative front, there's obviously the potential of the Farm Bill being opened back up. What are you hearing from D.C. on that?
Well, we think that's a bad idea. It was fully debated and appropriately debated in 2008. It was discussed last year in 2009 and went nowhere. We think it was a bad idea in 2009. We think it's a bad idea in 2010. I did get a report this morning that the House Ag Committee, it went nowhere in the Ag Committee. That doesn't mean to say it's done yet, but I think we just need to keep delivering the message that we need to keep the Farm Bill in place through the life of the Farm Bill.
Okay. What about the biodiesel tax credit?
You know, the reason I'm laughing at that, I feel like a bride that comes to the altar, and every time I come to the altar, I walk away without a ring. I thought we've had that in place, ready to be passed several times, including late in 2009 when there would have been a lapse in this. Till we get that back in place, we have 23,000 U.S. workers idled, a lot of them in rural areas, a lot of them not paying taxes, collecting unemployment, and it very simply for the soybean producers, that's cost a soybean farmer about 25 cents for every bushel he sells. That's $250 every semi-load of beans going through the elevator. And right now, that is in a bill that's being discussed on the Senate floor this week. We need to get that moving. Then we need to put through the House, and we're just going to keep working until we get done. I've been disappointed 2 or 3 times on the timeline. I'm very optimistic we're close to it, but we need to close the deal on this one for the U.S. soybean farmers.
What's the prospects of actually getting that closed?
I think they're very good. The thing that's so hard to understand is we have good support in both houses, the Senate and the House. The vast majority of the elected officials support it. But it needs to be put on a bill that will move before it will pass. And so we just need to find the right bill. And we thought we had one of the job bills. Senator Reid stripped it out because he had a second job bill he wanted to reintroduce. And that's where we're at, is the second job bill. So hopefully that will pass this time.
Okay. Now, a year ago at this time, Rob, we were looking at the OIG investigation coming out with ASA requesting the OIG investigation of the United Soybean Board. What's the status on that and the relationship between ASA and USB?
Well, let me first tell you the status. And the status is the Office of Inspector General does not give status reports. Mm-hmm. So we have no status of it. And so we know it's ongoing. And the Secretary did implement the OIG, and I cannot give a status because we haven't received one. But regarding the ASA-USB relationship, I'm very pleased to say that we're having good, solid, appropriate communications between the leadership of the two groups. Chairman Bradshaw invited me as ASA president to come and address the USB board, and that was actually my first official presentation as ASA president. I was elected to president on Thursday. I went to USB board on Friday. And so that was, I thought was appropriate. I thought it was appropriate for me to go and talk to their board. Also went back to their February board meeting in Birmingham, spoke with the board. Chairman Bradshaw and I have regular communications. When we have something we need to talk about, we do talk about it. And I have extended, ASA has extended an invitation, Chairman Bradshaw come and address our March board meeting. So we are having communication. But with that, Chairman Bradshaw approached me, and he wanted to start 3 USB farmers and 3 ASA farmers to begin what he calls a facilitated conversation, non-binding conversation. And these 6 farmers, 3 from each board, will meet next week and begin the process of setting up a facilitated conversation. And so, and that's what we need to be. Our 2 boards, our soybean farmers at home, and I always come back to when I have not sure about a decision, I always come back and think, well, what will my neighbors expect? And that's how I try to deliver this leadership as ASA, and I think Mr. Bradshaw, Chairman Bradshaw, is doing the same thing. It's very clearly the soybean farmers at home want their 2 organizations, the National Soybean Checkoff and the policy member-driven association, American Soybean Association, to work and communicate together, and that's what we're working on.
What about the Freedom of Information Act request that ASA has filed, I guess, a year ago? That seemed to die off for a while, and now it seems to be heating back up.
Well, there was really never... we filed that, I believe it was in May of last year, and AMS, Agricultural Marketing Service, and the Foreign Ag Service, 2 divisions of USDA, each has a Freedom of Information Officer. They looked at it. They said it was appropriate. It would add to understanding of operations of USDA and their respective organizations, such as USB, and that there was no commercial interest of ASA, American Soybean Association. So they granted the Freedom of Information, they granted us a fee waiver, and the information is moving forward. I think that the public just needs to understand this was an act of Congress to allow sunshine, transparency, and understanding of the government. And that's what this freedom of information is based on. And I think that's the message that I think when most American farmers think about it that way, it's very obvious that's the proper thing for it to move forward.
What are you looking for in that with that request?
Well, we've had some requests on some communications of internal communications of USDA between USBs and those sort of things. And again, they're just things that the FOIA department looked at and said it would aid in the understanding and operations of the federal government.
Okay. Finally, on just back to ASA and membership, how are you looking at membership now? And you had a big push on membership recently. Has that been a success?
We're a membership. We're a voluntary membership organization. Membership is our lifeblood. It's job one. We had a small membership increase last year, which doesn't sound like a lot. But at the same time, when you consider that the consolidation, the changing demographics of the U.S. soybean farmers, and a lot of the membership organizations have had large decreases, I think it just goes to show you that the U.S. soybean farmers understand they need a strong policy advocacy group such as the American Soybean Association working for their best interest.
That's Rob Joslin, president of the American Soybean Association from Sidney, Ohio, out here at the Commodity Classic in Anaheim, California.